Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments Brokers, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, Ben Erlinson, and Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Baylor football starts Big 12 play in Ames against Iowa State this weekend after a 2-1 non-conference record. Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor, joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Good afternoon. Thanks for your time. As always, Mack, I saw Brett Yormark was at the game Saturday, back in town to just discuss some good business with you.
Yes, he was, him and his wife, Elena, were in town, and they were enjoying Baylor football and our crowd, our fans, our student athletes, and I think they had a great time. I hope they had a great time.
I'll tell you something that was interesting to me, and I maybe this is just me, but he was walking from the president's suite towards the elevator, and I forgot who he was with, and I just said, "Hey, Commissioner," he said, I met you at Big 12 Media Days. We interviewed you. He goes, "David Smoak. I have not talked to him, seen him, or heard from him in exactly 2 months." Is that someone that he kind of like remembers those details like that?
Yeah, he does. And you're a celebrity, so of course he's going to remember you.
Good God.
I mean, you teed that up. Just teed that
I
up.
think he did that on purpose.
Man, I'm going to use this for my resume. No, I can't remember. I'm terrible with names. That's why I asked about that as well, with what you've seen along the way with him. Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor, with us.
Mack, we've seen some things going on with the SEC and some of their non-conference games that were scheduled a couple years out getting canceled. How close is the Big 12 to figuring out their schedule? And is realignment scheduling harder or more difficult than COVID scheduling?
I would say that COVID scheduling is probably harder just as a cancellations or the frequency of them. But that is a great question. You know, I think we're close. We're going to have some additional conversations. We know it's something here we've got to do shortly, and you know, again, just truthfully vetting this idea of divisions versus one division, and then, you know, trying to get a sense of, you know, just what the future looks like, meaning the next, you know, 2 years after this season. Texas, Oklahoma, part of it, they're not a part of it, and so all of that is fluid, and so it makes it a little bit challenging, but I think we're close, and hopefully here we should know direction soon.
Mack, as I'm sure you noticed or someone pointed out to you when the SEC talked about their schedule release and then there was those cancellations, everybody just automatically assumed like, oh my gosh, Oklahoma and Texas are leaving early. When do you think you guys will have a sense of knowing that, hey, we can plan for 24, we can plan for 25 if need be, and we know that will be a part of it? Like, is there a timeline on where you guys will actually have some certainty in that regard? Because obviously it would seem like you would need to.
Yeah, no, Craig, it's a fair question, and you know, obviously, eventually, we need to. You know, I hesitate to put a timeline because it's fluid, and but you know, I would certainly hope by the end of this calendar year, we're going to know, you know, kind of the future, and you know, are they going to be part of the, you know, the 20. Well, certainly you would think they're going to be part of the 23 football schedule, but I think the bigger question is, are they going to be part of the 24 football schedule? And so, you know, I think that, you know, I'd like to think sooner than the end of the calendar year, but just probably as a safety net have chosen certainly by the end of the calendar year.
Mack, no matter when they leave, can you ever see a point where they would not pay the exit fees or whatever those numbers have been?
Yeah, I don't think so. And again, so much of that is fluid, and you know, whether or not it's the full amount, I think remains to be determined. Just as it's like it's been in other conferences with precedent and members leaving. So I think there's that question mark. Still to be determined. But I do think, yes, absolutely, they will end up paying an exit fee.
So because
Yep.
So because of that, is it now? I wouldn't say amicable, but does anybody really care if they leave in 24 or 25? Because if they left and skipped the 20 and weren't in this league in the 24 season, that just means everybody would have come to an agreement and everybody would have been made whole.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody is sitting here, that's really stuck a flag in the ground in terms of whether or not they're here for the 24 season or not. The exit fee, termination fee is what it is. It's that's an obligation to pay whether or not they remain all the way up through the 24 football season, end of 25 spring athletic season. So that happens regardless, versus if they go a year early. So I think that however it plays out, we're gonna make it work, and I think everybody's been cordial with one another, and it's just it's the odd circumstance that we're in right now that college athletics is in when we think about conference realignment and we think about all of the other changes that are upon us.
Mack, in terms of on the field, obviously a very emotional and just weirdly, I guess setup game just in BYU in terms of the time zone change and the travel and all that came with that, the adversity of that game. It was a tough one. You wondered kind of how Baylor would bounce back, and this past Saturday they got the win against Texas State. What were your thoughts on seeing the team get back home, get back into the swing of things at McLean Stadium, and get back in the win column?
Yeah, I was proud of our young men and our staff to move on. Quite frankly, that BYU loss hurt, and I was still fired up about it. 6 days later, the Friday before our game against Texas State, and I think if you really asked and people were truthful that there were others, staff and student athletes that felt the same. But I thought that you saw a little bit of them wander, particularly in the second quarter, but we're focused again the second half, and thought it was a really good effort on both sides of the ball. I think offensively it was over 501 yards, and I think close to not 300, but very close to 300 on the ground. And so yeah, I was proud of the staff and our student athletes, and Coach and I, we talked about it leading up to the week. It's, certainly, his responsibility wasn't just with our players or student athletes, but it was also with the staff and getting everybody refocused and aligned and, with great energy going into the Texas State game.
Mack, with all due respect to what you guys do on game day at McLean Stadium, and I know that there's always work in progress and you try to find ways to get the crowd involved, and there's certain traditions you also abide by, et cetera. Can you imagine the atmosphere at Brigham Young and Provo? Can you ever imagine that atmosphere at Baylor? Did we lose him?
We lost for a second.
Okay, just a second. Try to get him back. Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor University. I like what he was talking about with, again, there's open-minded about, and probably the Texas-Oklahoma, where it was at this time last year as far as the relationship with the conference, et cetera, and where it is now. Doesn't mean there's not bad blood, but they're working, I would think, everybody working together to move on so everyone can go live their new life.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
here's a check you have to write, and here's a check you have to write.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that. I guess maybe if you read super into the words and his tone and all that, you could probably catch something new from those. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all sorts of plays out. We're all looking for answers, but not going to get them anytime soon.
Mac, did you ever see the day that the atmosphere you saw and experienced, and so did everyone else at Baylor, at Brigham Young and Provo? Can you ever have that kind of atmosphere at McLean Stadium?
Yeah, why not? You know, I think for us it's a work in progress, and you know, I think we continue to improve our atmosphere, and you know, that was an amped up game for them. I don't know if it's like that, you know, for every game. You know, I would argue that when we played Oklahoma here last year or Texas last year, that was a pretty special amped up environment. I know that the Fox folks thought so when we played, you know, Oklahoma at home. So, but you know, no doubt lessons learned. I think when you go on the road, you're always looking at what others do, and you measure them up against yourself and how you can improve. And, you know, Jovan and her team, Aaron Jean and them, I think, you know, we continue to grow and evolve. And I know that there were some really, really cool things that BYU did. They did it really, really well. And again, it was good for us to experience that.
Mac, as part of that, you know, you have those games like the Texas and Oklahoma game, and then you kind of look back and go, okay, what outside of the opponent, what else did we do to try to put it in the bottle? I know it happens with us here. We get like a good video with a hit on YouTube, and okay, how do we put this in a bottle so we can pour it over the next one?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think, you know, the opponent matters, but hopefully we can continue to grow this into where, you know, no matter who we play, who we compete against, right, it's going to be that type of energy. And I think, you know, that's where it starts is the energy, the number of fans in the stands, and so I think, you know, for us to be able to make that our standard, you know, every single game, is certainly a goal for us, and it's a process. And you know, I think again, not saying that we've been perfect. I think there's room for growth, and there's going to be continued room for growth. But that's our challenge is, you know, making McLean Stadium a place that's just got great energy, great vibe. You know, a place that's really exciting to be a part of.
I don't know if this is official, so you may not be able to respond, but do you know Scott Draper very well, who appears to be the one replacing Ed Stewart?
So I won't comment on whether he is or he isn't, but I do know Scott well. You know, we spent time together when I was at the University of Houston.
Okay.
And he was in the you know, I think we had a brief stint as the Big East, and then became the American Athletic Conference, and know him well. And I can say this, you know, that you know, when I was there at Houston and working with him, he was exceptional. Did a great job.
I don't buy Baylor merchandise. But I know I've bumped into fans that do, and it may not even make sense. But somebody said, "Can you ask Mac the next time you have him on, where can we buy Nike Baylor merchandise that seems to be available to some other schools, but that we can't get?" Is that even in discussions what you guys do?
Yeah, no, it is, and you know, again, I don't know if you know, that's truly the case that Nike apparel with other schools is available. I think that, you know, at least I can speak on behalf of Baylor that, you know, we are, or Nike has experienced significant supply chain issues. You know, we've certainly had conversation about them. And, you know, you think about, you know, Nike jerseys with, you know, student athletes' names on them. You know, we were expecting those. We continue to say they're coming soon, but not, again, available because of supply chain issues. So it's a work in progress. I think I could probably honestly say that Nike's frustrated, and so is Baylor.
Mac, when a team like West Virginia is a part of the Big 12, or like what we see now with the Big 10 with USC and UCLA, and they're way out, different time zones, even though Cincinnati, UCF, and whatever is coming to the Big 12, is there ever any talk about a supplement or a stipend for a school that's kind of isolated on travel cost?
Yeah, great question. Really a thoughtful question. You know, we haven't had those conversations specifically with the West Virginia. I think that was certainly part of they're coming into the Big 12. It's not been a conversation, for example, with a UCF. I'm not sure BYU is a great example, even though they're fairly far out west. But I think it's a reasonable thought, but certainly haven't had those conversations.
Do you feel like Texas and Oklahoma and the Big 12 are more amicable these days than they were perhaps a year ago?
Great. Probably not. I mean, I think we're getting, look, we're professionals. I would like to think that. And, I think, they're professional when I think about, or when I'm talking about Oklahoma and Texas and our membership, the 8, and you can even throw in the 4 that are coming in. So, I think everybody has respect for one another, but I'm not sure that it's any better than it was a year ago.
Thanks for your time as always, Mac. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics at Baylor University on SICM 365 Radio and 365 Sports. I didn't know how he was going to answer that.
That was an ender. That's what Bill